Men over 60, there is something you deserve to hear, because the truth has been hidden from you for far too long. The number of times you ejaculate each month may be silently shaping your prostate health, your cancer risk, and your long-term vitality. And most men your age are unknowingly doing it far too little. Some pay for it with years of urinary problems, sleepless nights, and a prostate that grows more inflamed with every passing month. The pain of getting up 3, 4, even 5 times a night. The embarrassment of a weak stream. The fear that one day a doctor will sit across from you and say, "We've found something concerning." These worries are real, and they weigh heavily on millions of older men. But here is the paradox almost no one talks about. The very act you were taught to hide, restrain, or feel ashamed of may be one of the simplest ways to protect your prostate. And there is a clear, science-supported number that can change your health within 24 hours. One small adjustment that begins lowering stagnation and inflammation almost immediately. All of this will make sense in a moment, but first, let me introduce myself. I'm Dr. Mohit Kara, urologist and men's health specialist, and today I'm going to show you what every older man must know. Before we go any further, if you haven't subscribed yet, take a moment to do it now and turn on the notification bell. I share information specifically for men in their 60s and beyond, and I don't want you to miss the tools that can genuinely protect your health. And after you finish this video, type 1 in the comments if it helped you understand your body better, or 0 if there's something you want me to explain more clearly. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into the truth about ejaculation frequency, what the science really shows, and the number every older man needs to know to protect his prostate. 1. Understanding why the prostate depends on regular ejaculation. Most men don't realize this, but one of the most dangerous things that can happen inside an aging prostate is not a tumor, not an infection, not even enlargement. It's silence. It's inactivity. It's what happens when the gland that's been working nonstop since you were a young man suddenly has no outlet, no release, no way to clear what it produces day after day. And the shocking truth is this: the prostate does not slow down just because your sex life changes. It keeps producing fluid, keeps generating secretions, keeps doing its job even when you stop doing yours. That fluid doesn't simply disappear. It sits, it thickens, it stagnates. And over time, that quiet, unseen stagnation can become the very thing that makes the prostate vulnerable to inflammation, swelling, and cellular changes that no man ever wants to face. This is not something most doctors ever explain to you. Growing up, you were told to be discreet, disciplined, controlled. You were told that your urges were something to hide, something to shame, something to push down. But your prostate never received that message. It was designed for rhythmic release, for regular emptying, for movement. Without it, the gland becomes like a filter that's never cleaned, or a pond where the water no longer flows. Everything slows. Everything thickens. Everything becomes more fragile, and men often come to my clinic confused, asking why they're urinating more often, why their nights are getting interrupted, why their PSA is creeping up, why they feel a constant pressure deep in the pelvis that wasn't there before. Many expect to hear it's just age. But age is only part of the story. The deeper truth is that a lifetime of reducing, suppressing, or avoiding ejaculation slowly teaches the prostate a pattern of inactivity, and the gland is paying the price. What most men don't know is that ejaculation is not simply a sexual act. It is a biological cleansing cycle, a maintenance routine built into the male body. Each release flushes out proteins, inflammatory byproducts, and aging cellular material that the prostate collects over time. Without that natural clearing, the internal environment changes. And even though you may not feel it right away, the prostate does. It becomes heavier, more congested, more irritated. Older men often assume these changes are unavoidable, but you have far more influence over your prostate's biology than you've ever been told. And here is the part that should make you pause. Improving this one process, this one habit, can begin shifting your prostate health in as little as 24 hours. The gland responds quickly when it's given movement again. The pressure lightens, the inflammation begins to ease, and the tissue finally gets the circulation and clearing it has been waiting for. But there is a deeper, more surprising layer to this story. Because what happens when you do ejaculate regularly doesn't just protect the prostate. It changes the way your hormones behave, the way your cells communicate, and even the way your cancer risk evolves as you age. And that brings us to the next surprising truth you've likely never heard before. 2. The stagnation problem. Why infrequent ejaculation becomes dangerous over time. Most men are shocked when I tell them this, but one of the clearest predictors of prostate distress isn't genetics, diet, or even age. It's stillness. Pure, prolonged stillness inside the gland. When the prostate goes too long without releasing what it produces, it begins to change in ways you can't see, can't feel at first, and would never imagine could affect your health so deeply. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens quietly, slowly, almost respectfully, as if the body is trying not to disturb you. But over the course of months and years, that silence becomes a heavy weight the prostate was never meant to carry. Your prostate is not just a passive organ. It is constantly making fluid, constantly filtering, constantly producing the very substances that keep your reproductive system functioning. But after 60, when ejaculation becomes less frequent, that once steady movement turns into accumulation. Fluid thickens, old secretions linger, inflammatory proteins settle into the tissue. And this buildup, this internal clutter, begins triggering irritation in a gland that becomes more sensitive with age. Many men describe it as a subtle pelvic heaviness, a new urgency when they urinate, or a slow, hesitant stream that seems to worsen each year. They speak with a kind of quiet frustration, as if they're blaming themselves for something they don't fully understand. But this isn't failure. This is physiology. In my clinic, I often meet men who say the same sentence, "I thought this was just part of getting older." They accept the discomfort, the nighttime bathroom trips, the pressure in the lower abdomen as unavoidable. What they don't realize is that these symptoms may not be random at all. They may be signs of a prostate struggling under the weight of stagnation, a gland doing its best to function while holding onto fluid it was never meant to store indefinitely. When the prostate stays full for too long, circulation decreases. When circulation decreases, inflammation rises. And when inflammation rises, the tissue becomes more vulnerable to the very cellular changes every man hopes to avoid. There is also a deeper emotional side to this that many men never speak about. When ejaculation slows down, many men quietly interpret it as a sign that their masculinity is fading or their value is diminishing. They carry this inside, unspoken, for years, but the truth is far more compassionate. Your body is not betraying you. It is calling out to you. It is asking for movement, for clearing, for the rhythm it was designed to follow. You have far more control over this process than you've been led to believe. And here's where things become even more surprising. The stagnation inside the prostate doesn't just affect the gland itself. It begins influencing hormones, blood flow, and the health of the surrounding tissues in ways that connect directly to your long-term cancer risk. And when you see what the largest studies reveal about this relationship, the picture becomes even more startling. That's exactly what we're going to uncover next. 3. The landmark study. 21 times per month and why that number matters. Most men are stunned when they hear this, but one of the most influential studies ever done on prostate cancer didn't focus on genetics, medication, or surgery. It focused on something far more intimate, far more personal, and something almost no man over 60 has ever discussed with his doctor. It examined how often men ejaculated. And the results were so unexpected, so striking, that they shook the medical community and forced us to rethink nearly everything we thought we knew about prostate health. Imagine following tens of thousands of men for nearly 20 years, tracking their habits, their aging, their cancer outcomes, and discovering that one simple number, how many times they ejaculated per month, had a measurable, undeniable connection to their long-term prostate cancer risk. It sounds unbelievable. Yet the data is real. This study showed that men who ejaculated 21 times or more per month had a significantly lower risk of prostate cancer than those who ejaculated only 4 to 7 times. For many older men, hearing that number feels almost haunting. It raises questions they've never considered. Could my prostate problems have been influenced by years of silence? Could something so simple, so human, have offered protection I never knew I needed? There's a kind of quiet reflection that washes over men when they hear this for the first time, a mix of curiosity, regret, and a desire to understand how their own habits may have shaped the body they carry today. And beneath that reflection lies something deeper, the recognition that even at 60, 70, or beyond, their actions still matter, their choices still matter, and their ability to influence their own health is far from gone. When I sit across from older patients and explain these findings, they often look down at their hands or stare at the floor, trying to make sense of a reality no one prepared them for. They think about the years when desire faded, when stress took over, when intimacy disappeared from their marriage, or when they simply believed that sexual activity didn't serve a purpose anymore. They think about the nights they chose sleep instead of connection, the months they went without release, the long stretches of stillness they assumed were harmless. And then they ask the question that every man eventually reaches. Why does ejaculation have this effect? How can something so private have such a profound influence on cancer risk? The truth is both simple and deeply meaningful. Ejaculation clears the gland. It reduces stagnation. It lowers inflammation. It may help regulate hormonal balance inside the tissue, and when the prostate functions as it was designed, it becomes more resilient, more stable, and less vulnerable to the cellular changes that lead to cancer. This is not about counting numbers like a chore or forcing the body into unnatural expectations. It is about honoring the biology that has been with you your entire life. It is about recognizing that even the parts of yourself you've ignored or avoided still depend on your attention. But here is where the story becomes even more revealing. That 21 times per month number, as powerful as it is, does not apply equally to all men. Your age, your symptoms, and even your sexual patterns can shift what the right number means for you. And that more personalized, more practical guidance is exactly what the next discovery unveils. 4. The Spanish study, lower ejaculation equals higher cancer risk. Here is a finding that stops nearly every man in his tracks. When researchers in Spain studied hundreds of men, some with prostate cancer and some without, they discovered that the men who developed cancer were not the ones with the worst diets, the least exercise, or even the strongest family history. They were the men who ejaculated the least, not just slightly less, dramatically less. In fact, when the researchers compared men who ejaculated 5 or more times a month to those who ejaculated only 4 times, the risk of prostate cancer jumped by 64%. And for the men who ejaculated 0 to 3 times per month, the risk more than doubled. For the men who reported never ejaculating, the number became even more frightening, a 271% higher risk. These numbers are not theories, they are not guesses. They are lived realities for men whose bodies became battlegrounds long before they realized something was wrong. Whenever I share these findings with patients, the room becomes still. Older men often lean back in their chairs, exhale slowly, and whisper something like, "I had no idea." And beneath those words, there is a deeper, quieter ache, because this study didn't just look at a lifetime of habits. It looked at the year before diagnosis, one single year. And in that 1 year, the differences were stark. Men with cancer had ejaculated far less than men without it. Many were living with stress, illness, emotional distance, lost desire, or simple resignation. They believed the decrease was normal. They believed it didn't matter. They believed they were doing what men are expected to do as they age, accept decline without question. What they didn't know was that their prostate was losing one of the most important protective rhythms Mother Nature ever designed. What makes this study so powerful is not just the data, it's the emotional truth behind it. So many older men stop ejaculating, not because their bodies fail them, but because life fails to give them the space for intimacy, the confidence to seek pleasure, or the reassurance that their sexuality still has value. Illness, grief, loneliness, or strain within a marriage can close doors that were once open, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, the prostate goes from a gland that thrives on movement to a gland living in silence. But silence, as these findings show, is not harmless. It becomes a signal, a warning, a marker of a prostate losing its resilience. The men in this study did not know they were putting themselves at risk. They were simply living their lives, quietly, dutifully, or passively, while an essential biological process faded into the background. This is why I tell every man over 60, your intimacy is not trivial, your pleasure is not irrelevant, and your release is not without purpose. Your prostate remembers every month you go without movement. It keeps score in ways you cannot feel until symptoms appear or lab results raise concern. But the Spanish study revealed another layer many men overlook. Ejaculation frequency does not work in isolation. It interacts with urinary symptoms, hormone patterns, and biological aging in a way that paints a much larger picture. And when you understand how hormones shift with age, and how ejaculation influences them, you begin to see the fuller truth about your prostate's long-term health. That's the eye-opening connection we need to explore next. 5. Testosterone, aging, and the hidden relationship with ejaculation. Most men are never told this, but one of the earliest signs that your hormones are starting to shift is not low energy, not declining muscle, not even weaker sexual desire. It's how often you ejaculate. The frequency of your release is more than a measure of intimacy. It is a mirror reflecting what's happening deep inside your endocrine system. And here is the shocking truth. Men who stop ejaculating regularly often experience a drop in testosterone far sooner and far more dramatically than men who stay sexually active. Most assume it's aging. Most assume it's fate. But for many, what feels like a natural decline is actually the body responding to a pattern of inactivity that sends the prostate, the testes, and the brain a message. Reproduction is no longer a priority. The body adapts to that message, not with anger or punishment, but with a slow and steady reduction in the hormones that once gave you strength, confidence, stamina, and drive. It is a quiet decline, almost gentle in its progression. You might notice you wake with fewer erections, your motivation softens, your mood becomes heavier, your muscles seem harder to maintain. None of these changes arrive with loud warning signs. They slip into your life so gradually that many men never realize they are connected. But physiologically, the link is unmistakable. Testosterone thrives in an environment where sexual activity remains alive. When the pattern fades, when months pass without release, the male system downshifts into a lower gear. It may still function, but it stops flourishing. There is something deeply emotional about this that many older men never speak aloud, even to themselves. They sense the change, the slowing, the quieting of something that once defined them. They feel a distance from their own vitality, but carry it silently, as if admitting it would somehow diminish their identity. But the truth is far more compassionate. Your body is not failing you. Your body is responding to the signals it has been given. And one of the clearest signals of continued masculine vitality is regular ejaculation. It tells the brain, the testes, and the prostate that reproductive health still matters. It tells your hormonal system to remain awake, engaged, and balanced. Research has shown that men with higher natural testosterone levels tend to have a lower risk of prostate cancer. This doesn't mean you must chase extreme numbers. It means maintaining a steady baseline helps your prostate function as it was designed. Ejaculation supports that baseline by promoting healthier hormone rhythms and reinforcing the biological message that your reproductive system is still active. And when hormones are stable, the prostate becomes more resilient, less reactive to inflammation, and better protected from the cellular changes that accompany aging. But here is where things become even more compelling. Testosterone, ejaculation, inflammation, and prostate function are all pieces of a larger physiological puzzle. And once you know the optimal ejaculation frequency, not just for young men in studies, but for someone your age, with your health history and your hormonal patterns, everything begins to come into focus, and that is exactly the clarity we're moving toward next. 6. How often should you really ejaculate after age 60? The practical answer. Most men are startled when they hear this, but the prostate does not respond to age the way the rest of the body does. Your muscles may weaken, your joints may stiffen, your energy may slow, but your prostate never stops producing fluid. It never stops working. It never pauses to match the pace of your changing life. And that means one shocking truth. Even in your 60s, 70s, or 80s, your prostate depends on regular ejaculation just as much as it did when you were young. The need doesn't disappear simply because desire changes. The biology remains, often silently, waiting for you to reactivate the rhythm your body was built to follow. Men are often stunned to learn that the prostate becomes more sensitive, not less, as the decades pass. It becomes more reactive to stagnation, more vulnerable to inflammation, more dependent on movement to stay balanced. And because of this, how often you ejaculate is not a casual detail. It is a cornerstone of your long-term prostate health. Yet older men rarely receive a clear answer. Some are told it doesn't matter. Others are told it's only about pleasure. Many are told nothing at all. They're left guessing, wondering what's normal, and assuming that whatever their current pattern is must simply be what nature intended. But nature has never been that vague. The research is consistent, the biology is clear, and decades of clinical experience confirm the same conclusion. Ejaculation is part of the prostate's maintenance cycle, and without it, the gland becomes more congested, more inflamed, and more susceptible to the problems that disturb so many older men. So what is the right number? What is realistic, achievable, and meaningful for men over 60? The truth is surprisingly compassionate. You don't need to mimic the 21 times per month threshold seen in younger men. You don't need to force your body beyond what feels natural. What you need is a rhythm that keeps the prostate active, clears the gland regularly, and prevents the slow buildup that leads to discomfort and disease. For most older men, that falls between 8 and 21 times per month. Not as an obligation, not as a performance challenge, but as a health guideline that supports circulation, balances hormones, and protects tissue integrity. 2 to 5 ejaculations per week is ideal, not for pleasure alone, but because the prostate depends on that frequency to stay functional and resilient. Anything substantially below 8 per month increases the risk of stagnation. Anything significantly above 21 offers no added medical advantage, though it is not harmful. Men often feel a quiet relief hearing this for the first time. They realize that their body still responds, still heals, still adjusts. They realize they are not powerless. They realize they can take action without needing youth, perfect libido, or intercourse. Ejaculation in this context is not about performance at all. It is about honoring a biological requirement that does not disappear with age. But knowing the number is only the beginning. The more important question is what it means when a man falls far below it, and the hidden message your body is sending when ejaculation becomes rare or disappears entirely. That deeper warning sign is exactly what we need to uncover next. 7. When low ejaculation is a warning sign, what men over 60 should watch for. Most men are stunned to discover that one of the earliest warning signs of declining prostate health is not pain, not blood in the urine, not difficulty urinating, it's how rarely they ejaculate. Long before the prostate becomes enlarged, long before nighttime bathroom trips begin, the body sends a subtle message through reduced sexual release, often months or even years before symptoms appear. And here is the shocking truth. When a man consistently ejaculates fewer than 4 times per month, it is rarely just a coincidence. It is often a sign that something deeper, quieter, and far more important is shifting inside his body. Low ejaculation frequency is not simply a lack of desire. It can be a biological signal that your prostate is inflamed, your hormones are imbalanced, your circulation is weakening, or your emotional health is carrying more weight than you realize. Many older men tell me they stopped ejaculating often because they just don't feel like it anymore, or because intimacy has faded, or because stress and aging have dulled the spark. But beneath those reasons lies a deeper physiological reality. When testosterone begins to fall, when inflammation rises, when the prostate becomes congested or irritated, your body naturally reduces the drive for release. It isn't laziness. It isn't lack of masculinity. It is your body protecting itself, conserving energy, and quietly signaling that its internal environment is changing. Men often misinterpret this as a normal part of aging, a quiet slide into later life. But in truth, it is one of the earliest indicators that your reproductive system is losing the rhythm needed to keep the prostate healthy. There is also an emotional dimension to this that few men talk about. When ejaculation becomes infrequent, men often assume they are the problem. They blame themselves for fatigue, for stress, for not feeling the way they once did. They pull back from intimacy, sometimes without meaning to, and a slow, heavy silence replaces connection. But what they don't realize is that this silence is mirrored inside the prostate, the same stillness, the same lack of movement, the same subtle decline. And just as emotional distance can strain a relationship, biological distance can strain the gland. The prostate depends on motion, it depends on release. When that release disappears, the gland shifts into a state of stagnation that feeds inflammation and vulnerability. Younger men can sometimes go long periods without ejaculating and feel little change. But after 60, the body becomes less forgiving. Low ejaculation frequency can mean poor circulation to the pelvis, reduced oxygen flow to prostate tissue, unchecked inflammation, or early signs of benign prostatic hyperplasia. It can even reflect broader issues like depression, cardiovascular decline, or metabolic imbalance, because everything in the male body is connected, and the prostate often reacts before the rest of the system shows symptoms. What I always tell my patients is this: don't ignore the message. If ejaculation becomes rare, your body is telling you something, and listening to that message can be the difference between early intervention and late discovery. But here's the encouraging part. Once you understand why the frequency matters, you also gain the ability to change it, to support your prostate, and to influence your long-term health in ways that are both simple and powerful. Because reducing your cancer risk, improving urinary flow, balancing hormones, and restoring prostate vitality are not mysteries reserved for younger men. They are achievable steps, and the complete framework for protecting your prostate for the rest of your life is exactly what we are about to explore next. 8. The Prostate Protection Plan: How to Keep Your Gland Healthy for the Rest of Your Life. There is a moment in every man's life when he realizes that his prostate is no longer just another part of his body, it is a part of his future. And the shocking truth is this: the prostate does not wait for cancer to appear before it starts asking for help. It signals long before that point, quietly, through urinary changes, reduced libido, nighttime interruptions, and the gradual decline that many men chalk up to age. But here is what most men never hear. Your prostate is one of the few organs in your body that can dramatically improve in function when you change even a single habit. Its decline is not inevitable, its discomfort is not predetermined, and its health is far more responsive than most people realize. When I speak with men in their 60s and 70s, many tell me they feel trapped by their symptoms, resigned to discomfort, or convinced that their best years are behind them. They feel the heaviness of waking at 2 or 3 in the morning to urinate. They feel the irritation of a slow stream that never fully empties the bladder. They feel the quiet fear that something inside them is slipping away. These feelings are real, and they deserve to be acknowledged, not dismissed. But what matters even more is understanding that the prostate is not a passive victim of aging. It responds, quickly and consistently, to the care you give it. A true prostate protection plan is not about one magic supplement or one dramatic lifestyle overhaul. It is about small, meaningful changes that your prostate feels almost immediately. Regular ejaculation keeps the gland moving, preventing stagnation and reducing inflammation. Daily walking increases pelvic circulation, lowers insulin resistance, and helps regulate hormones that keep prostate tissue stable. A diet rich in anti-inflammatory foods, tomatoes, berries, leafy greens, olive oil, and fatty fish, reduces oxidative stress inside the gland. Staying hydrated protects the urinary tract from irritation. Sleeping well supports testosterone production, which in turn protects the prostate from becoming overly sensitive to hormonal shifts. And perhaps most importantly, annual screenings catch changes early, long before they become dangerous. What surprises many older men is how quickly these steps create momentum. Within days, some notice a lighter feeling in the pelvis. Within weeks, nighttime urination begins to improve. Within months, the entire urinary system can feel more balanced, more responsive, more stable. And beneath these physical changes lies something even more powerful: the return of control. Men begin to feel ownership over their health again. They feel that age is not something happening to them. It is something they are navigating with intention and dignity. The prostate, perhaps more than any other organ, reflects the life a man lives. It responds to movement, nourishment, rest, and awareness. And here is what I want every man to take to heart. Your prostate is not beyond saving, not beyond strengthening, not beyond healing. No matter your age, no matter your history, the choices you make today can influence your health for years to come. But understanding these choices is only the beginning, because once you see how much power you still have, the final and most important question becomes, how do you use that power to create a future you can live with confidence? That is exactly what we will explore as we move into the closing message of this video. 9. Conclusion: what every man over 60 must remember about his prostate. When you reach a certain age, there comes a moment when you look back on your life and realize how many things you once took for granted: your energy, your strength, your confidence, your intimacy, your sense of being fully alive inside your own body. And perhaps nowhere is this more evident than in the prostate, a small gland that most men never think about until it begins to demand attention. But after everything we've explored, everything the research has shown, and everything your own experience has likely confirmed, one truth stands above all the rest. Your prostate has been quietly depending on you your entire life. It has been asking for movement, for circulation, for balance, for release, even when the rest of the world told you that aging meant slowing down, withdrawing, or letting go of parts of yourself that once felt essential. The lesson in all of this is not simply that ejaculation plays a role in prostate health. That is only the surface. The deeper message is that your body is never silent without reason. It speaks through symptoms, through changes in desire, through disruptions in sleep, through new patterns that feel unfamiliar or unsettling. And your prostate, more than almost any other organ, speaks early. It warns gently. It asks for attention long before serious problems arise. The tragedy is that most men never learn to listen. They believe suffering is normal, decline is automatic, and discomfort is simply the price of aging. But that is not what your body wants for you. Your body is always urging you toward healing, toward balance, toward longevity, toward strength, even in your 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. You have learned that stagnation is not harmless, that silence inside the gland can turn into inflammation. That low ejaculation is often an early warning, not a minor inconvenience, and that your hormonal health, your urinary health, your sexual health, and your cancer risk are all connected in ways that reveal how deeply your prostate depends on regular movement. You have learned that research does not exist to frighten you. It exists to empower you, to show you that even one small change in your behavior can influence your future. You have learned that 2 to 5 ejaculations a week is not a measure of performance or virility. It is a measure of care, of maintenance, of honoring the body that has carried you through every season of your life. But perhaps the most important lesson is this: you are not too old to change your health. You are not too late to protect your prostate. You are not beyond improvement, recovery, or renewal. The prostate is one of the most responsive organs in the male body. It rewards effort quickly. It softens under consistent care. It heals when given what it needs. And the man who chooses to act, not out of fear, but out of respect for his own life, can experience profound benefits in a remarkably short time. So as you move forward, let this be the message you carry. Your prostate health is not a mystery. It is a reflection of the choices you make, the habits you maintain, and the attention you give to your own well-being. And the power to protect it has been in your hands all along.